Have you ever agreed to something you didn't actually want to, smiled through it, and then quietly resented the person for weeks afterwards, even though you're the one that said yes? That pattern has a name, and today I want to walk you through why it keeps happening, and at some point in this video I'm going to tell you the one thing that actually breaks it. So pay attention, because I won't tell you when it's coming. I'm Reverend Paul. I've spent over 20 years in ministry sitting with people through exactly this pattern more times than I can count. If you're finding this helpful, go ahead and tap that like button. It helps more people find this when they need it. So let's get into it. Here's the pattern. Someone asks something of you. Saying no feels risky, like it might create conflict, disappointment, or distance. And you say yes. You perform the agreement, and underneath it, resentment starts building. Because a part of us knows you didn't actually consent to this. You just avoided the discomfort of saying so. Let me paint a picture of what this actually looks like, because it rarely shows up as one dramatic moment. It's small and constant. A family member asks you to host another holiday at your house, and you say yes even though you're exhausted, because saying no feels like disappointing them. A friend asks for a favor that costs you the entire weekend, and you agree instantly, because hesitating even for a second feels like rejection. A spouse brings up a plan you have real concerns about, and you nod along because voicing the concern feels like starting a fight you don't have energy for. None of these moments feel like a big deal on their own. That's exactly what makes this pattern so hard to catch. It's not one betrayal of yourself. It's dozens of small ones compounding quietly. The uncomfortable truth is that people-pleasing isn't actually about the other person. It's about managing your own fears. And Scripture actually names this fear directly. In Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25, it says, "The fear of a man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe." A snare is a trap, something that catches you and holds you. That's exactly what this pattern is. You're not free in that yes. You're caught by the fear of what might happen if you said no. Drop a comment below with where this pattern shows up most for you. I read every comment, and I may make a follow-up video of the most common answers. Paul writes about the same tension in his own ministry. In Galatians chapter 1, verse 10, he says, "For do I now persuade men or God? Or do I seek to please men? For if I yet pleased men, I should not be the servant of Christ." Paul is drawing a direct line here. You cannot fully serve God and fully manage everyone else's approval of you at the same time. Those two things compete for the same space. Every yes you give out of fear instead of genuine willingness is a yes taken from somewhere else. It actually was meant to go. Your own honesty, your own peace, and sometimes even your walk with God. Here's something worth sitting with. If you've spent years operating this way, the resentment doesn't just disappear when you finally say no once. It's built up. Layer after layer of small performed agreements adds up to something real. A quiet exhaustion, a low, simmering anger you can't always point to a specific cause for, and sometimes even a sense of losing track of what you actually want. Because you've spent so long answering the questions, what will keep the peace, instead of, what do I actually think? Rebuilding that muscle, the ability to know and say what's true for you, takes time. It doesn't happen because you watched one video about it. It happens because you start practicing it in small amounts over and over. I want to be clear about something, because this gets misunderstood constantly. This is not permission to become harsh, inconsiderate, or unkind in the name of not people-pleasing anymore. Some people hear this and swing to the opposite extreme, treating bluntness as if it were the same thing as honesty. Scripture doesn't ask you to choose between kindness and truth. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15, it says, "But speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ." Truth and love aren't opposites here. They're meant to travel together. The goal was never say whatever you want regardless of impact. The goal is saying what's actually true, delivered with genuine care, instead of performed yes that's secretly dishonest. Quick break. If you've been in a season where boundaries feel especially hard with one specific person, I made a video that walks through exactly when it's not selfish to step back, and you'll find it linked in the description. So here's what actually breaks this pattern. It's not becoming someone who says no to everything. It's getting honest with God first, then with yourself, then with the person in front of you, about what you actually want to say before you say what you think keeps the peace. That pause, that moment of honesty becomes the automatic yes, is where this pattern actually starts to change. In practice, that pause might sound like this. Instead of an instant yes, of course, you say, well, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. Instead of nodding along with a plan you have real reservations about, you say, I actually see this a little differently. Can I share why? These aren't dramatic confrontations. They're small delays and small, honest sentences that interrupt the automatic performance long enough for something truer to come through. It's slow. It doesn't happen in one conversation, but every genuine yes or no you give instead of a performed one is one less resentment quietly building underneath the surface. If any part of this is touching close to home right now, I'd genuinely rather you reach out to a pastor, a counselor, or a trusted friend than carry this alone. And if you want to go deeper on when stepping back from a pattern like this isn't selfish, I made a video on exactly that. You'll find it linked right here and in the description. Thank you, and God bless.